Well, good afternoon, everyone. This is Lee Andrews from Akathame. Thank you so much for joining us. If you are new, Akathame is a talent acquisition and talent management firm. We specialize in representing individuals who make significant contributions to organizations in marketing, creative, and digital. So primarily focused in that area. We also just do data science now too. So woohoo. Today we've got Shirely Golub here with us, and you might recognize that last name because her husband Phil was with us earlier last year talking about UX and career transitions and how things are happening in that space. Well, it just so happens that Shirely was in the recruiting space for 15 years and realized how much time she was spending coaching and counseling job seekers that she went and got her master's degree in counseling. So she is currently about 500 hours away, I think, from becoming certified, right?
Yes.
But she is ready to help us navigate this extraordinarily difficult time. And I'm not sure if things are going to get better or worse, Shirley. So now is a really good time to give out all our options. One thing that I want to remind our audience of is that these are suggestions, these are ideas, these are feelings. But if you are experiencing any trauma whatsoever, please do seek professional help right away. And Shirley's going to give us some resources at the end of the call or at the end of this broadcast so that either you or somebody that you know can take advantage of them. So this is not easy stuff, what we're going through these days. All right, so let's start with Shirley. So Shirley, why don't you tell us what kind of recruiting that you did in the past and how that parlayed into your desire to go the counseling route and what you're doing today?
Sure. So first of all, thank you, Lee, for having me on your show. I really appreciate your invitation. So I actually have agency and in-house corporate recruiting experience. And I first started out in college. I had no idea what I wanted to do. My brother knew somebody who was a great recruiter. I went to her. She asked me if I wanted to work with her in-house recruiting. So I did that for a couple of years, learned the ins and outs of contingency recruiting for an agency. It's a tough business, but I learned a lot, and I actually ended up getting placed by my firm in a law firm. And I started out as a human resources assistant and recruiting assistant, worked my way up to human resources generalist. And then since then, I spent quite a few years in the legal industry working in human resources and recruiting, about 10 years in 2 different firms. I also spent some time in several consulting firms. I worked for a cybersecurity firm and a very large consulting, one of, I don't even know what it is anymore. It used to be top 5, the big 5. Now it's, I don't know. But I worked for 3 years as a sourcer for them in recruiting. I realized that I was spending a lot of time working with employees, potential recruits, doing some informal counseling as well as formal counseling in employee relations. And I realized that I really wasn't able to help them as much as I would like to. I could only go so far in the HR capacity, and I didn't have the skills needed to really help people affect change. So I had also been very interested in psychology and counseling in college. I had helped to run some groups back, in my undergraduate years, and really enjoyed that. But I hadn't really thought about doing that professionally until well into my recruiting career. And then, of course, it was difficult to think about starting all over again. But a few things personally happened that made me realize, if I don't try it and pursue it, I may regret it later in life. So I ended up, close to the age of 40, starting graduate school, and I went back to get my master's degree in counseling. And now, sorry, go ahead.
So what made you realize? What were those triggers that said, it is time for me to go back to school?
Sure. Again, I had this interest and feeling for years. I mean, I want to say at least 10 years before I actually did it. I actually applied and got into a graduate school in New York City, but it just wasn't the right time for me. It just didn't feel right. But ultimately, we had a huge loss in our family. I lost my sister-in-law, and that was when I had applied for a graduate school here in the DC area where we moved. And I decided, her death really, it was a shock, and it made me realize if I don't start and pursue this now, I'll never do it. I'll get too comfortable, ensconced in my career. By then I'd already been there 13, 14 years in recruiting. And I knew that it would get harder and harder the further along I went. I actually spoke to my sister-in-law about that before she passed, and she said, go for it, go for it. So, after that, it was something I had to try. I had to really pursue something that I was always interested in, but I think for many reasons, I was afraid of failing. So I held back and held back, but I think it all happened for a reason. It happened at the exact right time for me. And, graduate school was it was a great experience. It was tough, very, very tough. I had 2 young kids while in graduate school. I had a 2-year-old and a 5-year-old when I started. The hours are long. I had to do a year-long internship, but it was all worth it because now I am in a job. I'm a mental health therapist with Prince William County. I work in vocational services. So I work with folks with serious mental illness. I work with them on helping them get ready for looking for jobs, searching for jobs, interviewing, keeping jobs. But we also help them with so much more. We help them with their recovery, so symptom management. We work with them on obtaining life skills. So everything from cooking, cleaning your home, answering messages, making appointments, all of these things that I think we all take for granted every day. I work with clients on those skills as well. So, every day is different with what I do. I work with, in large groups, as well as we're doing a lot of virtual groups now, but it's very fulfilling and I really love it. So all of that was worth it to get to where I'm at now.
So we have a question. What are you recommending for those struggling with their job search? Like how do they emotionally, it's the rejection that they're getting stuck on.
Yes, absolutely. That's a great question. And I get that a lot. I know a lot of people who have been laid off. I actually, when I was in HR, I had to do the laying off. So I saw firsthand how devastating it can be. I'm not going to give job search advice because that's what you can do, Lee. I'm going to give some concrete steps on how you can, help yourself and maintain your mental health while you're dealing with a difficult job search. So the first thing I would recommend is to find support. You don't have to do this alone. I would recommend finding at least one other person to speak with. It could be, somebody else that also lost their job at the same time. It could be a neighbor. It could be a family member. You need to find at least one other support. Another support you can look at are support groups. There are actually support groups out there for those who are struggling in their job search. There are also a lot of networking groups that you can join so that you're not alone. You can have a group of people to talk to empathize with, so that you don't feel like you're the only person who's dealing with this. So getting support, I think, is absolutely necessary. Another suggestion I have would be really to allow yourself, especially if this is new, if you were recently laid off or you recently lost your job for whatever reason, allow yourself to feel however you feel. I would say allow yourself that time, but also put a limit on it. However you're feeling is okay. Right now is the one of the strangest and most difficult times we've ever had. So, whatever you're feeling, anger, disappointment, sadness, some people may actually even be glad that they got rid of that position that they never would have left. That maybe they were afraid to leave. So no matter what you're feeling, even if they're contradicting feelings, allow yourself to feel that way, but also put a limit on it. Realize, I would say, if you've had a job for 20 years, you're not going to just get over that feeling in a week. You might need a little bit more time to process that. So give yourself that, but also put a limit on it so that you're not spending all that time, feeling angry or feeling rejected. I think making sure you feel how you're feeling, but also maybe saying, okay, it's been about 3 weeks now. Let's see what I can do. And taking action. So actions very much affect your feelings, which very much affect your thoughts. So it's all a triangle, right? Actions, feelings, thoughts. So if you're feeling, for example, if you're feeling depressed, you're not getting any job interviews, you're not getting any bites, and you really don't feel like doing any more job searching. You're fed up, you're frustrated, you're depressed. The best thing you can do is really create a routine and stick with it and stick with the actions. Keep doing things, even if you feel like it's not very fruitful, because the job search is a numbers game. It is absolutely not your fault that you're out of work. There are, over 20 million people right now. I think I just saw this morning in the news that the unemployment claims, the new unemployment claims are 1 million this month. It's the highest since August. So, there's a lot of people out there who are in your boat. But in addition to that, there are 10 million unemployed already. There are additional 7.3 million that are not even in the labor force because they've stopped looking altogether. And then there are additional 2 million who are marginally working. Those are just the formal numbers. That's not even the folks who have stopped looking because they had to take care of children. A lot of women are out of the workforce right now who may be looking to get back in. So, I say all of that because it's all a numbers game. Right now, there are not enough jobs to sustain the number of people looking, but that will change. It will change. That's not a permanent number. The jobs are going to be coming back at some point. Things are hopefully going to get better in the economy, and it's all a numbers game. So you have to keep moving. I really suggest that you create a routine and stick with it. Again, your emotions, your actions, and your thoughts are all, you can't affect one without affecting the others. So if you create a routine and stick with it, and you specify a number of jobs that you will apply to each week, and one piece of job advice I will give is, don't spend 8 hours a day going online searching for jobs and applying to 100 jobs, because that's not going to be effective for you or for anybody else. There aren't going to be 100 new jobs that you didn't see yesterday that all of a sudden appear today. Would you agree with that, Lee? I don't think that's very effective.
No, I think that's absolutely spot on.
Yeah, so don't spend 8 hours a day. I know I've read advice like that before in the past. Don't spend 8 hours a day looking online. I would suggest creating a routine where you include movement of some sort, so exercise, a walk, any kind of movement, going up and down your stairs, something to engage your mind. Okay, so something where you're reading something, not just doom scrolling, but really reading something that's going to challenge your mind on a subject that, again, engages you. And a third thing I would add to your routine is, having at least one meaningful conversation with another person. So whether that's somebody that's in your household, a neighbor, somebody on the phone, a family member, anybody, but a meaningful conversation. And it could be about anything, but I would suggest those 3 things in order to create a routine and stick to actions. So of course, obviously continuing with your job search is part of that, but you can still have a meaningful life, and you will. You still should be having a meaningful life, because your employment status is not your life. That is not your worth. So I know some folks may be parents, some folks may be single, some folks may have other family members to take care of. There are so many roles that you have. Your worth is not tied up to whether or not you're employed. I know that sometimes it may feel that way, especially for those who've been out of work for a long time. It may feel like there's nothing left, but that's not true, because there are a lot of people that that you can interact with and have meaningful conversations with. It's just that you really, I think at this point, need to seek those out And I think that's something I would definitely recommend is making those meaningful connections. Right now in this Zoom world where we're not getting to have those interactions, it's more important than ever. And the interesting thing about that is that, most people are not going to find jobs applying online endlessly. They're going to find jobs through meaningful conversations with other people. So the more you get out there and talk to people, let them know you're looking. I don't know how many conversations I've had with folks who come and ask me for advice on their job search, and I tell them, okay, well, did you share on LinkedIn that you're looking? Did you share with everybody that you know in your network? All the parents of the kids at the school that your kids go to. I literally mean everyone. Let everybody know you're looking, because if they don't know, they can't help.
Why do you think people aren't telling other people that they're looking for work?
Oh, there can be a lot of reasons. There can be a sense of shame. There can be a sense of embarrassment. There's a sense of everybody else in the world has it together and I don't, which is completely untrue. Nobody has it together right now. I'll tell you that.
No, with a straight face. Nobody has it together.
No one. I think I've learned a secret once I got into counseling, is that no matter how, especially right now in this time period, maybe some people had it together before this time period, but in this time period right now that we're in, Lee, no one has it together. And if you have it together, then you're not paying attention enough, because there's a lot going on.
Yeah, there's a lot of truth to that. A friend of mine who is actually, she's a relative, but she's also a good friend. My cousin, okay, let's just call it what it is. My cousin said to me, Lee, what you see on the surface isn't always what is behind the door. Everybody's got problems under their roof. Everybody. To what degree and severity, remains to be seen. But if anybody claims to not be challenged during this time or any time period in their life, they're likely just lying. So
yeah, I agree with them.
There's a lot of truth to what you said.
I agree. I think that our society is, we actually promote not showing weakness and not showing emotion. So, a lot of times people, exactly. Vulnerability is, for whatever reason, is shown as this huge weakness and we can't show it. And it's completely untrue. I think that, to have genuine connection, you have to have some vulnerability, and you have to be able to show that you're willing to connect with people that way. So I think that, again, if people are saying they have it all together and everything's fine, then they're probably not paying attention to what's going on in the world, because there's a lot going on. And I think that, a lot of people just don't want to show that vulnerability, to share that they don't have their job. I think that there's that myth that everybody has to act like they're successful and super busy and all of that. But if you're looking for work and you're not telling people about it, that's part of the issue. I think that you have to share widely that you're looking, because there's absolutely nothing wrong with the fact that you're looking for a job. So many people, like I said, at least 20 million right now are in the same boat, and there's nothing to be ashamed of for that.
If not more. If not way more.
I'm sure there's way more. Again, that's the official count. There are, I don't even know how many women have had to leave the workforce. And I know men have had to do the same, but mostly women have had to leave the workforce to take care of their children. And these are, professionals. They're not jobs that are easy to just jump right back in. Doctors have had to leave the workforce to take care of their children.
So I think now is a really good time to distinguish between two things. If you've gone on a number of interviews and you're not getting a job, that is likely something to do with presentation, content, style, something. But if you're not getting the interviews, if you're getting automatically rejected, that could also have something to do with the mundane, meaning your cover letter, your resume, who you're applying to or where you're applying. So I think that it's important to make that the distinguishing characteristics of, is it me on the mundane side, meaning, is it my resume? Is it what I'm saying? Is it who I'm saying it to? What are all those other things that we talk about in other sessions? what we're talking about here is when you know that you're doing all the right things and the outcomes are not as desirable as you would have thought they were, that's when you start getting into that downward spiral, right? So,
absolutely.
Yeah, so I think that, and I think that's a really important distinguishing characteristic to make in the job search process. Am I doing the right things with the right people at the right time? Should I be generating results? I'm doing everything I'm told to be doing, but I'm not getting the results. That's
Right.
something very different than what you and I are talking about now.
Exactly.
But it could lead to this emotional downward spiral, right? So
Right.
even
I
if you
mean,
are doing all the right things, Shirley, they could still
yeah.
find you.
It's a numbers game. There just are not enough jobs right now. And it really depends on what industry you're in. If you're in travel or in other industries that have been decimated, I don't know, how quickly you'll be able to get a job. You may have to look at transferring your skills to another industry. It's really hard to say without looking at the individual, but chances are, somebody who lost their job and was able to find another job within 2 months, maybe, 5 or 10 years ago, even, that's not happening now. The jobs are just so much longer. I mean, it takes months and months at this point, unless you are, you're out there communicating that to everyone. I can't stress that enough. How many people are not sharing? I'll say things like, "Have you updated your LinkedIn to tell people you're looking?" They're like, "Why would I do that?" And just like, wait, tell the world that you're looking. We have people who are the most talented and amazing in their industry who are looking. So, please don't feel like there's something wrong with you. It's a numbers game.
I would say COVID has cut to the muscle. Like we're not losing fat in the companies. We are losing muscle in the company.
Absolutely. There are people who are getting, left and right laid off for, no fault of their own and who are struggling. But a lot of people are struggling. So, I would say be flexible as well. This may not be the time to get that dream job of yours. It may be the time to find something that is okay for now.
So when you and I were chatting before, I had asked because hiring managers and HR professionals are also getting an emotional brunt of this, especially in HR. I mean, recruiters, like you said, you're having to lay people off.
Mm-hmm.
It's not a good feeling, unless, of course, you have absolutely no, emotional capacity whatsoever. So what can we tell our fellow colleagues in the recruitment profession that are having to go through this? What can they do to get themselves through that process? It's hard.
Oh, it's very difficult. Laying people off can be one of the most difficult things you can do because you're affecting someone's life and their livelihood and everything. I would make sure, both to my HR, the colleagues in HR and in recruiting, make sure you're practicing self-care because that can take a brunt on you. And, not just with layoffs, but, with any number of things that they're dealing with. A lot of the folks in HR and recruiting are hearing stories firsthand of, even if people are employed, they know, their spouses are laid off or they're trying to take care of children and parents at home. I mean, there's any number of things that people are really dealing with right now. So self-care, I would say, is the most important thing. Again, both for the job seeker and for those who are, probably doing the job of 5 people right now and, handling a lot of different things for their companies, making sure that you take time to exercise. I know that everyone says that, but it makes a huge difference. There's studies that say that, walking and exercising can be just as effective as an antidepressant. Obviously there are situations where that's not going to work, but for the most part, usually moving helps. It absolutely helps with anxiety and depression. That's proven. So I would say that, make sure that you're monitoring yourself. Make sure you're looking at your behaviors and making sure that there aren't, are you over medicating? Are you, everyone's, okay, I get it. Everyone drinks wine once in a while or, every day. But monitor yourself to make sure you're not, over medicating, doing things that you wouldn't normally over a long period of time. Again, we're in a pandemic, people have whatever they need to do to get through the stress, but is it causing you harm in the long run? Definitely monitor yourself for that.
Yeah, so you bring up a good point. And I'm wondering how the isolation is affecting people. I know that I've got friends who, like me, are at home with their animals. We're just not used to that. I have another friend who's been staring at her husband for a year, under the same roof, and that's it. There's no animals. It's just the two of them. And it's hard. I sense the stress that they're going through, and it's just, you're like a caged animal. So, we can still take some walks, safely apart from each other, but from others. But, I think this getting out and active, I think, is really important for that.
Especially now that it's winter. I know it's much, much harder to do those things, but those are the things that can make a huge difference. You can still go outside and see your neighbors. You don't necessarily have to be within 6 feet. It's even just calling and checking in on them, and this kind of leads me to another one of my action steps, which is do something good for others. Making sure that, to take the attention off of yourself and, maybe the cycle that you're in, but also to help others as well. So, every single day, try to do at least one good thing for someone else. So it could be anything like mowing the grass for your elderly neighbor, or shoveling snow for your neighbor, writing an email to your child's teacher, or, sending a letter. How many times have you gotten a real letter from someone that was heartfelt? So that might be something you can do to help connect. And as you mentioned, Lee, the loneliness, that's absolutely, it's heartbreaking because, a lot of elderly, especially right now, are dealing with that. Like you said, a lot of people are home just with animals, or, they may not have anybody. I have some friends who have, who don't live with anyone, and they can't see their parents because, they're afraid to infect them. So, it is absolutely real. One way to help with that is to do something good for others. Even if you're alone by yourself, you can still send a letter to somebody, or, do something ahead of time, send a delivery, send a gift card, it doesn't have to be much.
So one of the things that I do, and this may sound kind of corny, this isn't from Shirley, but this is what I do. I practice gratitude.
On my list too.
I wake up in the morning and I say, thank you for everything that I have and everything that I don't have. And because I don't have COVID, I don't have cancer. There are a lot of things that I have that I want that I don't necessarily want, but they're not bad. So that attitude of gratitude, I think, is what keeps me focused.
Yeah, actually, that was number 4 on my list.
Oh,
I actually wrote it down. Gratitude is probably the number one thing that can help folks from falling into, a depression or anxiety cycle. Focusing on your gratitude, whether it's your sense of smell, your ability to be able to walk, the fact that you're healthy, you can hear the birds chirping in the morning. Those little things are, very, very powerful. And, to be able to kind of focus on the moment, using mindfulness skills, to be able to be aware of what you have and to be grateful for that. I know a lot of people think, oh, that's like all woo-woo stuff, but it's not. It's actually part of what can keep you feeling joy during this awful time. It's those small things. Something that's helped me quite a bit. I know it sounds so silly, but I love going on the panda cam to look at the little, the 4-month-old cub at the National Zoo. My kids and I we've loved watching him grow up. He's 4 months old now, and he's brought some joy into our lives when, we've had some very stressful times as well. So, focusing on the gratitude, the small things, the fact that you woke up this morning, the fact that you can see, hear, these things that not everybody has. Not landing that job right now, it's not going to affect how you experience those small things. And at the end of the day, those small things are the big things.
Yes, boy, you've covered a lot of ground here, Shirley. Thank you so much. We have 1 minute left, actually 30 seconds. So I want to make sure that we share all of the resources. There's the GMU Center.
Yep. So I was going to say that if you are monitoring yourself and find that this is more than you can handle, there are a lot of resources. I would recommend getting help. If you can't afford help, there are places that will offer sliding scale. So the GMU Center for Psych Services, the Women's Center in Vienna, those are two really good resources in Northern Virginia. If you're not in Northern Virginia or you need more referrals, SAMHSA has a national helpline. Call them. They can refer you to low-cost services in your area. And finally, the National Suicide Prevention Hotline, we have that number up, and a text number. I know that losing your job can be devastating, and I'm hoping nobody needs this number, but if you or anybody you know needs it, do not hesitate to get help. And even if you just need to talk to somebody and you're in crisis, call this number. They can help you.
Shirley, I'm going to end on that note, and I'm going to say that remind you what Shirley just said. If it is not you and it is somebody else, send them the link to this recording. If nothing else, have them skip all the way to the end and get this contact information in their hands right away, or copy it down and send it off to them or text it to them, because no life is worth losing over not having a job.
Absolutely.
That's just that simple. Shirley, thank you so much. This was mind-blowing with all the information.
I know it's a lot. It's a lot to process, but I hope it will help someone out there.
And I'm kind of feeling like I'm in my own bubble here, but my bubble's kind of not bad. So I think that's just gratitude on my end, because I know it can be and could be a lot worse than it is. So
gratitude is very powerful.
Yeah, it is very powerful. And so are sheet cakes. I'm just saying, that's another option. All right, everybody. Thank you so much for joining this live with Lee. And if you have any questions, don't hesitate to reach out to me. Shirley and I are connected on LinkedIn. You can grab her on LinkedIn or through me. I'll be happy to make introductions anytime. Everybody have a good afternoon. Shirley, hang on for just another second.